Hi, I'm Jo from the Central Scotland School of Jewellery, and we're here to help you on your jewellery journey. So let's talk a little bit about filing. Earlier, we pierced out this heart shape. However, now we need to file it. Filing serves a couple of different purposes. So perhaps when you were sawing out a shape, you maybe went a little off track, you want to make a correction. Well, you can certainly do that with a file. But more importantly, as we sawed around the edge of this heart shape, our saw blade made tiny little nicks and marks in the edge of our piece. And if we want a really refined, finished result, what we have to do is file those marks away. So I've got a few different files in front of me here. We have a large half round, and as the name suggests, one half is rounded and the other half is flat. I have a large flat file, both sides are flat, and I've got a pack of needle files. These come in a lot of different shapes, and they're much smaller than the other files so that you can get into the smaller, more detailed areas of your piece. Now the temptation is most people go straight for the needle files. But actually, what's better is if you start with the biggest possible file. So here I've gone for my large half round, and I'm going to use that to clean up the edges of my heart shape. Another really important thing is to make sure that your hand or your piece is grounded on your bench peg. It's very tempting to have it up here near your nose where you can see it. However, there's no resistance. There's nothing to push against when it's up here in the air. You really need to have it down on the bench peg, or at least have your hand down on the bench peg. Now, as I'm filing with this larger file, you'll notice that I'm going to push and lift, push and lift. This is because files only cut on the push stroke. Resist the temptation to drag your file back and forth. It makes a horrible noise, and it clogs up the file, clogs up the little teeth of the file. So see if you can get into the habit of pushing and lifting as you work your way around your piece, cleaning up all the little saw marks or taking off any mistakes that you might have made. If your file does happen to get clogged, it's not a huge problem. We've got a little file brush here, wire brush, and you can just give it a scrub, get some of that material out of the teeth of the file, and see if that makes your file feel a little more effective. So, a lot of people ask at this point, oh, don't you need to take your design off, take the paper off? And I always just say, if it's in your way, if it's bothering you, take the paper off. If it's not bothering you, just leave it where it is. It's actually protecting the surface of our heart from being scraped and scratched. Once you think you've got all the excess material off, or as much as you can with your larger file, that would be the time to get one of the needle files. So in this really tight area here at the top of the heart, I would look for a file whose shape mirrors the shape I'm trying to get into. So I am going to go for the triangular needle file. Again, I'm going to make sure my piece is down on the bench peg, and I'm going to push, lift, push, lift. Just do a little bit of work on both sides. Another reason you shouldn't use your needle files to file the entire piece is because they're quite small. They don't cover a lot of ground. So if I was to use this small needle file and file all the way around the edge of my heart, I might end up with a slightly scalloped or bumpy shape. So if possible, go for the larger files first. Another type of filing you might come across is when you need to make an edge flat. For example, if you're making a ring, both ends of your wire or your metal need to be flat before we can bend them to touch and make them form into a ring. So I've got a little piece of metal here, a little piece of copper wire, and what I'm going to do is just show you how I would go about making this flat. So once again, I'm resting it down on the bench peg. I'm going to go for my flat file this time, and it's important that I'm going to hold this piece of wire so that it's totally perpendicular, and then I'm going to try and hold my file at a 90-degree angle. And as before, I'm going to push and lift, and if I try and keep these two in a T shape, then I should be able to get the metal to come to a nice flat edge at the top. Filing can be a wee bit more about looking than it is about filing, so every once in a while, hold it up, give it a little spin at eye level, see how you're doing, and if it's still a little bit crooked, go back, slow down, keep your angle really sharp to 90 degrees. Now, when you buy a file for the first time, it may actually come without a handle. And that's what we're going to talk about in a future video. It does need a handle, and I'm going to show you how to put one on.